With war, world, and Atlas Dog, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas Dog, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Jar open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas Dog, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas Dog, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.
All right. What's going on, everybody? See Chris, Evil Elmo, TNT. Howdy.
Oh, we do have people in here. I wasn't put up on the right thing, so I wasn't seeing them.
Oh, got a few people in here. Appreciate everybody for showing up. So we're a couple minutes late. I wasn't wearing a shirt, so I had to go put one on. Actually, I had a shirt on. I just tried to come up with something real fast.
Yeah, I tried telling them the crowd would appreciate it.
That's all funny, stupid video. When you get in the rabbit hole where you're on like Facebook or something, and you're going through shorts after shorts.
Yeah.
And one was this lady that was filming her husband. They're eating dinner, and he had like an old ragged shirt on, and his nipple was lined up perfectly with a little hole in his shirt.
Yeah.
She was like, "Tell me that's not what I think it is." Yep. He looks down, and he's like, "Quit looking at me." It was really funny.
They make special shirts with like designs on them now. I saw somebody does that, where it's like for men and women, for like where the nipples like cut out. And it'll be like, what was it? The one was like Dragon Ball Z or something. And like two of the balls were like where the nipples were. And it was like people were like holding them. It was like, who comes up with this kind of stuff, dude? I don't get it.
They've always had those funny shirts. I remember the Big Johnson shirts were always funny when I was a kid growing up. You probably don't remember those.
No.
I think they were bigger in the 80s or maybe even the 90s.
Well, I think the best advertisement are the way that the new age guys are doing it. There's like two examples of that, right? You have the one who is the car salesman, where it would be like the woman would be like crying, and she was like, "My boyfriend left me," and it would cut to him, and he'd be like, "I literally don't give a shit." He's like, "Anyways, my Chevy Tahoe over here is going for 79." Like, this one's gonna kill me. But the new one's like that sign guy with the neon signs, and the one is like he split the camera in half, so the bottom half is this girl twerking, and the top half is just his head, and he's like acting like he's seen in the twerking where he's got the LED sign. Dude, it's hilarious. If you see any of that guy with the LED sign, you gotta watch him. So
yeah, good. The LED sign. It took me a second to remember. He's an Asian guy.
Yeah, but, it's like LC Signs, I believe.
Yeah, that guy cracks me up. He's like, "Don't care to play the clip." Yeah, don't care. That's why they voted for Trump. Still, check out this.
Yeah, you know the streamer Speed.
Yeah, I Show Speed.
Yeah, that show Speed. Well, he actually went in person, I think, today to visit that guy, the LC Sign guy, and I just caught this right before we went live. And the guy was like, "Okay." He's like, "Fine." Speed's like, "Okay, fine. Send me this sign." And the guy's like, "Okay, let me think of something." And he talks to Speed, and he's like, "Well, okay, man." He's like, I got you your new sign. What do you think of it?" And then Speed's like, "Well, I think," and then, dude, no joke, the sign guy goes, "And well, anyways, I'm selling this," and he cuts off Speed, and it was hilarious. Like, he did it. He's like really good at doing what he does, man. The guy gets his problems.
That's awesome. He needs to start selling something that costs more and get a higher commission out of it.
Right, exactly.
Chris, is that guy's name Tony? Is that why you're saying Tony? That's what I'm assuming, but I don't know the guy's name, so it'd be a total guess for me.
It might be. That sounds right. Tony with the LC Signs guy. Yeah.
But yeah, those are good videos for sure. So we got a few things lined up. Today's been kind of a slow news day, but yesterday was pretty rapid. They tried to. I saw a post from the quartering actually today where he was like, "What's going on today?" There's like no news to talk about, and then I logged on to the Daily Wire, or not Daily Wire, the Daily Mail, or Daily Mail. It's one of those, and and the top headline was that Elon Musk resigned from Doge, but I guess that he didn't actually, and it was pretty crazy. Daily Mail really kind of went after him. They must not be Elon Musk fans because they showed the picture of him doing the salute, which we know he wasn't. We've been down that and explained fairly clearly that he was saying my heart goes out to you. And then,
Right.
the memes of all the Democrats and everybody else came out. I mean, even Jasmine Crockett, just the other day, there was a picture came out of her doing the same hand gesture. And we all know that it's not the true thing. It's just a way that the left attacks. But
I was kind of blown away. I was covering a little bit from Piers Morgan Uncensored, going through that and clip farming, and two guys who I'd never heard of before. You might know them, Van Lathan and Jesse Dollemore. If anyone's familiar with who those guys are, literally no idea who they were until I was watching that segment. But I had like
Never heard of
Jillian
'em.
Michaels and like Ari Fleischer was on there too.
Okay.
But they were both like ardently like, there's no way you believe that he didn't do the Roman salute, right? And like was sitting there like, dude, like I'm not. Are you retarded? Like you definitely didn't. And then Pierre's is like, he clearly did, like what you had just said. My heart goes out to you. And when Pierre's did it, like half-heartedly, you have Van Lathan who's like, oh,
You just did it.
like the soy jacking over it, and it's like, oh, dude, it's so cringe, man.
Once again, it's that scene from Monty Python where they want to stone the guy to death because he said the name of Jehovah in vain, and he's like, "What? All I said was, my wife. All I did was tell my wife this meal was fit for Jehovah." And they're like, "Oh, he said it again! He said it again!" And then
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Then the
And then
guy that's
eventually
trying to
they
condemn him.
stoned the guy who was gonna like stone the original guy
Yeah,
because he
like
said
the
it. Yeah,
head guy that was gonna do it, then he says it, and everyone's like, "Oh no, you said it too!" He
yeah.
just turns on a giant pile on,
Yeah, what was
and
that?
then
It's called Blasphemy, right? It's like the name of the
yeah,
video.
It's from the movie. It's a clip from one of the Monty Python movies, probably like the Holy Grail or something like that,
Okay.
or it could have been from Life of Brian. That's the only two I really know of.
Yeah, it's funny.
But it turned out that all the people in the crowd were women dressed up as men. They couldn't wait to stone the guy.
That's funny.
Which kind of goes along with what we're going to talk about tonight. There's a lot of feminism and DEI, equity. I don't know what you want to call it. That seems to have crept into the GOP the last, today, the last couple days.
Mm.
As it relates
no
to,
longer in that.
well, yeah. But it's we've seen it. It's come out to it's come to the forefront the last couple of days, involving this this vote in the House that has to do with being able to vote remotely. And I remember when everybody found out that this is how they do it. When because most people, I think, up until the point where Marjorie Taylor Greene exposed it on Timcast years ago. I don't even know how many years ago now. It could have been 3 or 4 years, like maybe even
Right.
longer. Might have been during Trump's first term. If Tim's really been doing it that long, I can't.
Yeah.
Time is flying, man. The Biden 4 years. I'm so thankful it went so fast.
So traumatic. You don't remember
So
it.
thankful it's gone and over with. But yeah, when Marjorie Taylor Greene exposed Congress that look, people don't show up to vote. And it's like, look, this is the whole reason why, the left fights the right, and we have all these shows and everything is going on, like a daily battle
Right.
to get this person elected over the other person because of Republican or Democrat, and then they don't show up in the numbers that they're supposed to. They don't show up and vote. And it's just like, what are you there for if you're not actually doing the one thing that we need you to do, which is outnumber the opposition? It's it's incredible. And so what we've seen the last couple of days is not looking good for some people. I think it's maybe the final straw for Anna Paulina and Luna, and the graces of the MAGA crowd, right? I mean, all of her promises that haven't come to fruition, and then now this. It's just, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Is it she just stuck in there to or has she been paid or influenced to just be that thorn in the side that prevents progress, doesn't necessarily do anything bad, but just prevents progress? I don't know. It's one of those times where I know folks like you who says that you would never vote for a woman to be president
Amen.
are kind of beating their chest today, you know, saying, look, this is the reason why we should not be electing women into our leadership roles. Look what's
Right.
going on. Look at this slippery slope that we've already gotten to here.
Right. Well, yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I've been saying for quite some time that women are actually not fit for political positions of power. Having a political opinion is one thing, but being able to make it actionable and be in those positions. And again, it was just disappointing seeing all of those Republicans switch sides to vote alongside this too for the remote viewing. Um, Unfortunately, setting a precedent for like the proxy voting, right? And like what other things can that extend to now, right? Like, oh, I can't come into work for this reason, or I should be able to vote for these things here. And especially when its history has like only been from committee voting and it was used very rarely and it was only to make votes inside committees, not for like major bills like such as what we were getting ready to go through, although it got halted because of this weird kind of emotional moment. And so it's odd because you have like a lot of, you know, trad Republican conservative types who were celebrating it. You even had like Tim Burchett, who had defected from the Republicans, voted with the Democrats, going alongside this Brittany, what's her name? Pattinson? Patterson, not Patterson, it's like Pattinson.
It says Pettersen, actually.
Is it Patterson?
U.S. Rep. Brittany Pettersen. Yeah, I got her Twitter pulled up right here.
Okay, yeah, it was weird because it's like with an E instead of an A.
Oh, it's Pettersen.
Yeah, Pettersen. That's what I was thinking.
Pettersen. The
Yeah.
A is silent.
And what's insane is like, so the vote.
There's no A. There's no A.
Yeah, right, yeah, I remember that much. But it's insane because the bill that they put forward, they did some kind of like weird injunction, right? I haven't listened to the outline. We'll get to it, but regardless, she brings her 9-week-old son to vote on this bill for a bill that's meant to make it so you don't have to show up for the first 12 weeks of life. It's like, but there you are with a child who's only 9 weeks old voting for a bill. So clearly it's like it can be done. Like, right, like you can clearly do it. I mean, ultimately it's this whole thing about you know, they're making this argument that there's not enough laws that help protect new parents. And the thing is, it's like that's how it should be, right? A dad who's a brand new dad has no reason why he can't show up to Congress the next day and the wife can't take care of things and hold it down. And like, what are we talking about here? But this goes back to the whole kind of patriarchal argument where women shouldn't be there in the first place. And I think Tim Pool's the one who made this point too, but I'll piggyback off of it, which is this is like DEI coming to Congress, which is like, how can we lower the standards for everybody to appease everyone and all these minor inconveniences that they have? And it's like, this could have just been solved by the reality of like the plethora of reasons that already exist why women shouldn't be in power anyways. This just adds to it, and in a way that also, I mean, and I'm not sure the truth level of this, but I've seen conflicting reports. Anna Luna is arguing that Speaker Mike Johnson actually shut down the rest of the voting on the rest of what the bills were supposed to be because he was angry about how it had played out since they had lost on that bill. But others, I think Mike Johnson and others are arguing that because she pulled, and I'll try to find it real quick what this was, but because of what she had pulled, what was it? It was some kind of precedent. I had it here. It was a discharge petition, but because she did the forced signature discharge petition, that actually like shut down voting on everything else, which included like voter ID bills, as well as some of the stuff talking about the court injunctions who've been blocking Trump.
Yeah.
And so, and then people, you point out
shut the rest of the week down.
Yeah, and I didn't vote for that. I didn't vote for, you know, for Donald Trump to come in so women could proxy vote because they just had a child.
Right.
I voted for mass
so that they could waste an afternoon voting on that in period.
Right.
You know what I mean? In the first place.
Right. So they convened for like 2 hours and then left. And now it's done for the week. So that now we're back to a position where Congress isn't working. I mean, this seems like a running theme, right? That was like Marjorie Taylor Greene's thing in the beginning was like, wait a minute, you're telling me these people get voted in, nobody shows up to work? Like, what? WTF? and now we need to put in extra measures. So like now when you're already working, in house perfect timing, you're already working like less than half of the calendar year, and now you need other ways and other means of like to not work. And it's like, bro, like maybe just like if you're gonna have a child, and not to say like you need to figure out a way to like jam it in, but more so like my ultimate thing is like we wouldn't have to worry about this. We didn't even entertain this whole like women are just as good as men about all these things, right? We're doing this song and dance, and now look at the downstream consequences. The slippery slope is real. You can't give anybody an inch when it comes to anything when you bend on principle, because then it opens a chink in the armor, and they go, wait a minute, well, what about them? It's like, well, why would you have a different principle? So you kind of just have to play hot hand, and then eventually you're like, yeah, you guys just decide everything. I lost the ground in the first place. It's just a bad spot to be in, and it sucks for Republicans.
Right. By the way, I think it's kink in the armor, but
Is it? Okay.
I don't know. YouTube might not like the other way.
I was let me let me fact check that real quick, because now I know what I just said and what you're meaning by that. So let me actually make
But yeah, while
no,
you're
I was right.
You're right. Okay.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I stand corrected.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
That's funny. That's funny stuff. So I got this video right here. Oh, I need to add it actually. Give me 1 second. We'll go ahead and play the excuse me, the Mike Johnson response. I think would be a good place to start, and then we can kind of go down the line here from the
Yep.
comments and things like that. Yeah, share screen.
Yeah, it's good to see House AI back in the chats with everybody else. Just me. Jay's in here. Don't know if we got anybody else we didn't mention already.
I saw Steve
And Tix too.
Tix, yeah. TNT. I don't know if you mentioned TNT. Yeah, he was here at the beginning. He was one of the original 3. JB.
Yeah, all my fellow Nazis in the chat. Let's go.
But Jay does make a good point here. He says they can do their jobs, but they decide not to, and that's totally a different and worse thing. It shows intent, and that's what this leads to. One point that what's her name, Brittany Pettersen, brings up is that she's like the 13th person in history in Congress to actually have a baby, and it's like so because of 13 people over how many years, now all of a sudden we're going to literally waste an afternoon for this vote, which is essentially another slippery slope that leads to just fully remote voting. And, at that point,
Right.
If they can remote vote, how can we justify everybody else not just voting for president and everything from our phone, from an app? At that point, is that what it leads to? And that's just a side thought, but I mean,
well, you're on a good track. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it reminded me. I think the best take, and forgive me because I remember who made it, but we can't even be, Republicans as a whole can't be mad at the auto pen scandal with Biden if we're sitting here pushing for why literal members of Congress shouldn't even be showing up to work with proxy voting.
that's
Right?
a good
Like
point.
that's very hypocritical.
Yeah, that's a good point. Which, by the way, I don't know if we mentioned it live on the show, but the auto pen thing was completely different than what I had thought it was originally. I thought it was more of like a DocuSign type thing, which actually it's a machine that has a pen and literally signs, and they it's an old machine that they've had for a long time. But still, the point is valid. If you can use auto pen, if congressmen can remotely vote. And here's the thing too, is what happened in society when women started getting, what's it called, the time off after they have a baby.
Maternity leave.
Maternity leave. Thank you. Yeah. Eventually that led to the fathers getting maternity leave, even in the military, right? Or
Yep.
maybe I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it even did. And so now there'll be men, essentially. The way things have gone in the past seems to me that the fathers, whenever they father a child, will be able to get the same type of maternity leave, aka mail-in voting, essentially. You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy. Thank you, Dirty Money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. It's not a good scenario. But
Dirty Money, if you want to go with the rest of everyone, where everyone else is chatting, that is at the Jar Openers podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll actually put it on screen just to make it easier for everybody. You can find it in the description, Dirty. Let me go ahead. I'll put it on screen.
They're put it in chat, you mean? Or
Oh yeah, that's a better idea.
okay. I was gonna say, yeah, because I'm gonna play this video while you add it to chat.
Yeah,
if you
do
want
that.
to.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is Mike Johnson's response. And then we'll kind of get into some of the reaction.
Well, it's a very disappointing result on the floor there. A handful of Republicans joined with all the Democrats to take down a rule. That's rarely done. It's very unfortunate in this case. 96% of House Republicans voted against proxy voting because they believe it's unconstitutional and they agree that it would open a Pandora's box. And so that's what we just saw. Let me just make this clear. That rule being brought down means that we can't have any further action on the floor this week. That means we will not be voting on the SAVE Act for election integrity. We will not be voting on the rogue judges who are attacking President Trump's agenda. We will not be taking down these terrible Biden policies with the CRA votes. All that was just wiped off the table. It's very unfortunate. We'll regroup and come back, and we'll have to do this again.
Mr. Speaker, were you asking for too much?
So yeah, it's always the Republicans that join the Democrats to vote. It's very rarely the Democrats. I mean, it does happen. Sometimes there's one. Very rarely do they ever step out of line from the Democrat Party and ever vote with the Republicans. And, you know, combined with the fact that we just lost a House seat in Wisconsin, or I should say, the Republicans did yesterday. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. And you know, frankly, just a side note, I can't remember who said this, but I read it earlier, and it was a valid point that you know, the Republicans didn't do very good Trump's first term in the midterms, getting people to show up and vote. And the way they're acting now, and after what we saw yesterday with the House vote in Wisconsin, we got to do a better job making sure that Republicans show up for these midterms in the next, you know, 2 years ish from now, right? In November, a year from now. Otherwise, we're destined for the second 2 years of Donald Trump to look like the first 2 years, or the second 2 years of Trump's second term looking like the second 2 years of Trump's first term, which is impeachments, impeachment inquiries, all kinds of stuff. And when you combine that with rogue judges that we're already competing with, that Trump's already competing with, it's not going to be, you know, the people aren't going to be at the forefront serving you and I. It's going to be just battles amongst these people. And, you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of people, especially if folks like Anna Paulina Luna and the Freedom Caucus start losing faith in Trump and this small portion of the Republican Party that we, you know, kind of separate from the rest of them, they're just going to abstain from the elections going forward. They're just going to be like, none of the above. They're going to go straight Richard Pryor and just vote for none of the above. And
Right.
was that, I think it's Brewster's Millions. But I just think that's just the path a lot of these folks are going to do. They're just going to be like, nobody represents me. I'm not voting. And hand it over to the Democrats, and nobody's going to give a shit at that point.
Well, so a couple of things. I always was thinking if the Republican Party, and we see it anyways, but I was always thinking what we were going to see from this kind of presidency was the right kind of separating itself out, kind of like the forgive me, like, you know, shifting and separating themselves, which they are doing. But Trump has a hand in this. I mean, you look at what people call him, Twinkle Toes Lindsey Graham, you know, putting his support behind Lindsey Graham, telling people like, you know, no one Thomas Massey picking up like that little battle here. You know, the lady he put in the slot for the task force is Anna Paulina Luna, and yeah, she did leave the Freedom Caucus. I don't know if it was like a forced exit or if she had she decided to walk away anyways. I mean, you're not going to stay there if you're voting with Democrats like that anyways. But also with the chat, right, it was Wisconsin, it was the Supreme Court seat, their state Supreme Court seat, not like the actual representative.
Oh, right. That's right.
On pace because Randy Fine won in Florida, and that's another person that Trump put his weight behind, that like a lot of people in the Freedom Caucus and around that like don't like him. If people don't remember, Randy Fine started getting waves along, I mean, about a year ago, one of my like more viewed shorts as well. Randy Fine is this fat, overweight guy who threatened Candace Owens. Like he threatened Candace Owens. He'd physically hit her because some of the comments and stuff she was talking about, and I forget what the specific topic was at the time. But I mean, this guy sucks. Like at the end of the day, he just sucks. And so you have Trump kind of operating through proxy. I hate to use that word multiple times, but he's kind of not making too many statements unless it's coming to like about we're talking about like Iran or something. So most of what's happening is being done kind of like by his surrogates, if you will, right? Caroline Leavitt, Anna Paulina Luna, Pam Bondi, all these people he put in place, and none of it right now sounds good. I covered that bit with Dave Smith yesterday. And I think he just echoes the sentiment of everybody. We're kind of at a point where all the people who were brought into MAGA at the last minute, like in that last couple of years, are already like, what is going on? Like, we're not getting what we all jumped in here for, and you can extend that to all the different people, right? He even brings up with Kash Patel, where it was like, we're going to arrest all these, corrupt deep state agents in the FBI, and we're going to clean house these guys. And what's he posting about on X? We're going to get these drug dealers off the street. It's like, bro, we did not vote for you to go after drug dealers. It's like, we voted for you to go after like the actual operatives inside these intelligence agencies. And now we're at a point here where it looks like we're getting rogue operations from like Anna Paulina Luna, albeit seemingly not under direction from Trump, but this is somebody who put in a position of power who's ultimately like, they're going to be getting calls from her resignation very soon. You can't do this weird thing with the task force with the JFK files and then now be a super extreme feminist when it comes to voting, because you're just like, you're empowering women. Like, get the hell out of here, dude. I don't give a shit about that. We want you to do the job that we asked you to do. And it's just all getting bogged down. So now it's not red tape. Now we're going back to like Trump just putting like not the right people in the right spots. This is when you look back and you go, yeah, Matt Gaetz should have been the AG. Like, yeah, you looking back, it's like, yeah, definitely should have been.
Right.
Like,
and if they didn't vote it, they should have done recess appointments. Regardless, Matt Gaetz should have been the AG. Should have played a harder game.
Right.
But maybe Trump was starting off trying to play kind, trying to play nice, and see if folks will play ball with him. And maybe he's rapidly learning that even folks in the Freedom Caucus, Anna Paulina Luna, particularly in this case, aren't necessarily going to support you the way that we thought. I mean, Anna Paulina Luna wouldn't be elected, in my opinion. Well, maybe she would be because she's from Florida, but I think she has a lot of reasons to thank Donald Trump and MAGA. You know what I mean? And this is a complete betrayal by her for going there with this nonsense and wasting our time. And like I said before, it doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like, what the hell is she doing? Is this emotions? Is this hormones? I don't get it.
No, that's not. No, I'm just kidding. But let's be real, right? She wouldn't be in any position of power if she was a fat, overweight woman. She wouldn't be Trump's top pick, right? So like, she's getting in based on the fact of like really nothing of the work that she's done. All I really know is how loud she is on Twitter, and Elon responds to her sometimes, so I see it. It's very little of substance, and then this is what to expect. I mean, I could have told you this is what we were going to get. I mean, I said this when we saw the JFK file task force thing. I'm like, what is going on? Just give us the files. Who is this random woman acting like you're coming in like the fourth quarter and the final 18 seconds, like, and I'm going to help you guys do the files. It's like, woman, put someone who's been handling these files for the last like 5 years, or has at least been looking at what's been available to us to have come in there and do this. And so, it's inevitably just like, it's just looking poor all the way around. I think there still is a chance, though, we still lose seats. I forget what other elections are happening right now for the midterm stuff, but I think so far, because Randy Fine did win his race, which I think he was estimated he wouldn't, it actually we're like going to keep on pace, even though we're expecting to lose in Wisconsin. And you might have seen this too, but the Quartering went on this huge tweet string where he was like, at the real Matt Walsh has 4.1 million followers and has not tweeted one time about the Wisconsin state race. And he just went down the line. He did it to Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh yeah,
but it's true.
I did see part of it. they were coming across my feed earlier today. They're from yesterday, right? They're like all from 18 hours ago, or no.
Yep.
Once he called out the Daily Wire folks, I think you're talking about the same line where he's like, "This most important, super important election is going on today, and
Right.
all these people are not saying anything about it, not letting people know, hey, make sure if you're in Wisconsin, go vote."
Right.
And it was funny because it said 16 hours ago. And I was like, well, I just saw Matt Walsh posted on it. And I went back to Matt Walsh's post and it was from 16 hours ago. So it was almost like Matt Walsh either saw Jeremy's thing and decided to post right away,
Yeah.
or just ironically had posted in that same like 16th hour, ago. I didn't
Yeah.
say specifically, so I couldn't tell you who actually posted first or not, but I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
ironic that once he goes on the rant and calls people out, then all of a sudden it starts popping up. At least I was like, okay, well, at least he's doing it. But
Right.
and like I said, Matt Walsh is one of my favorite ones over at the Daily Wire. Not that he's the best or anything, but at least I saw him. Whether if he was
Yeah.
called out or not, at least he
He
did
tried
make
at
the
least.
post. Yeah, exactly. And then
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the downside though. As much as like I don't appreciate that Scott Pressler's a raging homosexual, it's like, why is he the only one who is willing to do anything
right.
when it comes to like
He
these
spent
state
the
level
last like
stuff?
2 weeks in Wisconsin doing his thing like he did in Pennsylvania, trying to get people, woken up to the whole, get people registered to vote and just making people aware. And
Right. And there's no one doing it. Right. That's like, it's just him. And so like that's part of the reason why I think the quartering felt the audacity to call those people out, is because he went with Scott there in Wisconsin door knocking for the races that were happening. And just no one there. But you see it and you get like, what am I supposed to do? I'm in Ohio, right? Like I'm not gonna care about it. And so I think that's part of the reason though, is you have so many of these pundits who are massive, but they only spend time really kind of focusing on national issues, that if none of them are really kind of based in Wisconsin, I mean, these guys were all the Daily Wire guys, so like mainly Tennessee and then nearby.
yeah,
So they're going to care way less about Wisconsin. So that's why you kind of see a lot less kind of spoken to it. But this happens every time. It's happened during 2016 as well. Like our midterm results are awful, like absolutely awful. We generally always lose positions of power. So really for us, it's like the first 2 years means a lot more when we get a president in, because it's almost inevitable with our track record that we do lose power when it comes to the midterms. And maybe
right,
that's a bit to like just the way the pendulum swings, right? You get Republican, now you want to go Democrat. Basic people
yeah,
just want something different.
mhm.
And so ultimately it's like we're already seemingly running out of time for like what we can get accomplished and how easily we can get something accomplished. And we're
It feels
still
like,
sitting with like no results.
yeah, it feels like, yeah, and we're getting some results, right? But it's just this thing was a waste of time, and then of course it set up the rest of the week. It shut down the rest of the week's votes, which were the more important votes. Which crazy to me. Once again, the
Right.
GOP shooting itself in the foot um, for no good reason, to spite their voters, to spite the people that elected them, to spite the people that the rest of their party. Even their peers. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I got this
Right.
post here from Thomas Massey. He responded to it and says, Congress literally shut down for an entire week over a spat about whether new moms and dads serving in the House of Representatives should be allowed to stay home and vote. Imagine if we were this passionate about saving the country from fiscal ruin and perpetual war. And that sums it up rather well. It's common sense to some people. And,
Right.
the only thing that I can come up with Anna, Pauline, and Luna was, once again, it had to have been hormones.
Right. Well,
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Woman scorned thing or
women love
something.
it.
Like what's going on here? No hell hath the wrath that a woman scorned. And I know I just butchered that, but
Yeah, well, I was going to say, let's give the opposition a chance to speak, right? We have that clip from Brittany Pettersen.
yeah,
It's like that 2-minute clip. Just let her talk, because this is basically what her argument is. While she's holding the 9-week-old that she just voted to be able to stay home for. Like that's the part. It's like
Right.
you're clearly doing it right now. Like I don't
Right.
get it.
And like what Evil Elmo said earlier is that, you know, these people don't have to have these jobs. And so it's not like she has to show up. It's a 2-year term, 2 to 4 year term, right? And they don't need to have these positions if they want to start their families during that same time. It's pretty simple, you know. I mean,
What if we did that though? Like what if it was like you're a
you
woman
got to
in
be on
Congress?
birth control.
That's what I was gonna say, right? You're a woman in Congress. It's like, okay, you won your vote. Like, all right, now here's the here's the congressional plug. What? Yeah, just shove it in. You ain't doing nothing with that for the next 2 years. Like, no, like, I mean, what are we doing here, right? It's like this is the whole point of like why people just can't do American politics is because it's a bunch of me, a bunch of
Mhm.
just like selfish pricks with like no future vision, no kind of forward thinking. And ultimately, at the end of the day, hate to be brash, but like this is a woman moment. It's like who literally cares about this right now? It's like somehow making the country's in turmoil, but somehow now we're talking about this woman made this whole thing about herself, right? And it's
Mhm.
like it's probably just this one woman who has this going on. It's just Andrew's right. Like it's not a daycare, but that's essentially who it's all there is a bunch of kids.
Right. Well, the funny thing is this lady's a hypocrite. She's saying that she can't show up to vote because she's a mother and she's got this baby, but yet she can show up to do this. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, wait, can you or can't you? Because what you're doing is contrary. I don't know, I
Right.
probably said that wrong. To what you're actually claiming. And she's a hypocrite even more so. We'll play this and I'm going to cut her off in the middle and call her out.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to this rule, which restricts moms and dads from doing their jobs after welcoming a new child. Like so many of our colleagues, it's one of my greatest honors to be a mom. I have 2 little boys, a son named Davis, who's 5, and my little guy here, Sam, who's now 9 weeks old. It's also one of my greatest honors to have been elected by my constituents to represent them in Congress.
Like she's
And I can
reading
tell
off of
you
a script.
Yeah, she is. Oh, Pablo Winscobar. Hey, buddy. Just so you know, we have been trying to get everybody to go from. Sorry, my injured chicken is trying to move around. Oh, you okay back there?
That's funny.
She's got a sore leg. She's getting better though, so maybe another week or 2, but she's getting better at least. But Pablo, we have been trying to get everybody to go over to a different channel called the Jar Openers Podcast, which is exclusively about this live show. So if you don't mind, the link is in the description. All the chats going on over there. I would appreciate it if you wouldn't mind. You know, you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you're interested in chat, I saw one of your comments there. Your comment there says, "Am I the only one in chat? So lonely." No, you're not actually, but all the chat is going on over on the Jar Openers Podcast channel, and we're just trying to separate it. This is a little interim time right now where we just started the other channel, and you know, whatever. So appreciate it, man, and we'll see you over on that one, and everybody will welcome you kindly in chat.
Yeah. You have to with a name like that though, you're gonna have to show it ID.
I like the name. But let's continue here for a little bit.
Being a mom here and being only the 13th member to have ever given birth while serving in Congress, voting member, I can tell you we have a long ways to go to make this place accessible for young families like mine. When I was pregnant, I couldn't fly towards the end of my due date because it was unsafe for Sam and you're unable to board a plane. And I was unable to actually have my vote represented here and my constituents represented. After giving birth, I was faced with an impossible decision. Sam was 4 weeks old. And for all of the parents here, we know that when we have newborns, it's when they're the most vulnerable in their life. It's when they need 24/7 care, when taking them even to a grocery store is scary because you're worried about exposure to germs and them getting sick, let alone taking them to an airport, on a plane, and coming across the country to make sure that you're able to vote and represent your constituents. I was terrified that no matter what choice I made, that I would have deep regrets for the consequences. And while Sam is the best baby, I apologize for the noises here, but I want to thank Representative Luna for being such a champion on this issue, alongside the rest of my colleagues who have led this charge and supported us in our efforts to pass this resolution. When I hear from members about their stories, whether they're a mom or a dad, doing this job, having a newborn who's in the NICU, and having to make the choice whether or not to leave their child or come here to vote. It is unfathomable that in 2025,
I'm sorry, but she is struggling. I wish the baby would have just crapped like super loud right at the beginning, and she would have just been forced to stand there and talk with everybody in the room, knowing that the baby needs to have a diaper change, but instead she's going to sit there and talk and deal with the stink and everything.
Right.
But I was reading chat, and she might have already said this. If she didn't, forgive me. But she's mentioning, you know, she couldn't go. Well, I think it was when she mentioned the flight thing or whatever, and exposing the young child to germs being so young, a 9-week-old. And what is she doing? She's in the middle of DC with all these people here in the middle of Congress. You think these people don't get sick? What is wrong with you? Like, she's such a hypocrite. It's insane.
It's almost like God designed women to be close to home. Like, I mean,
For real.
it's like the woman problem, like, is just as important as the every other kind of problem, right? You know, I think there's like major problems that face us, right? You have like the issue of the black culture, right? You have the issue of the woman culture, right? You have the issue of all these major things. Like this one's, it's getting bad to the point that it's like it's now threatening like American facilitation of politics. We're halting and doing this kind of stuff. To sit there and kind of hold it against people of like, oh, what was me, like I had to decide between the NICU. It's like, well, as a mother, the fact that you even thought about it, for one, is like insane. Your duty should be to your child, not like the country. Almost as if like you should have never even been allowed in the first place for this to be entertained. I just, it's sad. And the fact that she's reading it off of script too is like, you'd think if you felt so passionately, you would halt all of the house's work for the entire week. You would like been like speaking from the heart, but instead she's got to like move her baby to like read what's on the paper that her staffers wrote for. It's just pathetic. It's just a terrible look.
Her staffers that were getting paid by the lobbyists. Abigail Shepard says, but that's her point, right? That she wishes she didn't have to bring her baby to that cesspool. Yeah, but then she did it. I guess I'm just calling her out for the hypocrisy. If she's sitting here saying, I don't want to have to do this, but she didn't have to do this. Like, nobody forced her to show up to this today.
Right.
So she's willing to do it, but this is just a virtue signal, right? This is not her being genuine because she's willing to do it already today. And I don't know. It's just hypocritical. I mean, you're right, but it's just hypocritical that she would actually have done it. She could have said this remotely, right? Wouldn't this have been better remotely on Zoom? Saying, hey, look, I got this crying baby. This is the reason why I can't show up, and I don't want to expose him to the germs of all of you guys, and you know, whatever. But instead, she showed up, read off a script, and you know, unfortunately, the baby didn't crap his pants while she was talking. But she's struggling. Like, she's having a hard time standing here doing this right now. Like, you can see the look on her face that she's ready to sit down or hand the baby off to somebody else. She looks like she's literally physically in, you know, pain of sorts.
Well, I mean, think about all the other parents, right? Like the people who are struggling to make it work when they're working at like Walmart and Taco Bell, and they got to do, you know, probably baby handoffs, right? One parent's got to show up and like trade the baby. They probably got to walk into the front door somewhere. I mean, like what? Now all the regular people, you have to get special privileges that everyone else can't have. I mean, like, you're in a position where you're supposed to be working for the American people. Like, it's losing sight. Again, this kind of elitism that's exhibited from these people who take these positions on. It is, you are supposed to be working for the American people tirelessly, and may I add, especially in such high leverage points now where we're deciding like the future of our country. I mean, like, this is why you shouldn't have been there in the first place. I mean, the whole idea that women get entertained to be in politics at all leads to these situations. But the point stands, like, nobody forced her to be into politics. And then to have everyone else in, for example, all of the House to be paused and put on hold because of a choice that you made to have a child. I mean, obviously having a child's good, but
Mhm.
doing it like this and halting the entire process of our government so you can sit on your couch and vote from home is insane. It's just outright just insane. You should
Yeah.
have walked away, and who knows what happens when you walk away. I mean, probably gets turned over to, like, some kind of, they'll look at the district and maybe just decide who's next in line or something like that, or a special election. I'm not sure how that would actually get taken care of. But ultimately, it's like, maybe it's like you have the idea of what God made you for, the whole idea, wrong. Maybe you're supposed to be with your kid. Maybe the reason you feel so strongly about this is because you care for your kid and you don't want them. It just, again, a lot of this would get solved if you would just revoke the 19th Amendment and stop entertaining these ridiculous ideas that women are the same as men in terms of leadership, thought process, handling pressure, making hard decisions, etc. I just think it's laughable.
Yeah, it is. And I think I'm going to cut her off right there. Or should we watch her struggle for the next 45 seconds? What do you think? What do you guys want to do? We'll watch her struggle. We'll watch her. We'll give her full take.
We have not modernized Congress to address these very unique challenges that members face. These life events where our voices should still be heard, our constituents should still be represented. But we're asking you to continue to stand with us, because no mom or dad should be in the position that I was in and so many parents have found themselves in. It is anti-woman, it's anti-family, and we need to come together to make sure that we kill this rule and have the opportunity to pass this resolution to make sure that new parents have the ability to continue to represent their constituents. And with that, I yield back.
About time.
Right.
So then we got Marjorie Taylor Greene, her thoughts. She weighs in. And like I said, she was the one that originally kind of exposed the whole mail-in people, not mail-in ballot, but the fact that these folks don't show up and everything like that to vote, like we think they do, at least. And so I definitely want to hear her thoughts on it. It's a good take too.
What we just voted on, this rule, Luna's bill, is extremely unfortunate. Being in Congress is a privilege. You don't have to be here. And there's plenty of people in her district that could serve in Congress if she chose time to be home and be a mother. I'm very much against the bill that she's trying to force to the floor and the way she's going about it. And I think it's wrong. And it's really going to open up the door to proxy voting, which is already unconstitutional, and we shouldn't be doing it. And I think members of Congress need to basically leave their egos at the door and realize that this is an important job. In the same way that soldiers go off and they're deployed overseas, they come home and actually meet their babies for the first time, and their babies are several months old. Members of Congress don't have to be here. They don't have to be here. Being a member of Congress is a privilege. You're serving your district. There's lots of seasons of life. I'm a mother. I've raised 3 children. And when my children were babies and were young, I prioritized them in that season of life. Now I serve in Congress because I'm not raising children. And I think that's a really important point to make. And if any member of Congress, for any reason whatsoever, finds them in a situation where they're not able to do the job here, the important job we're elected to do, they should step down because someone else can serve in their place. They're not required to be here. They're not more important than anyone. They're not more important than people in their district. And they shouldn't go across the aisle and work with Democrats while Democrats use a baby propped up around the floor trying to prove their point. But instead, they're holding a baby proving the point you can be a mother and serve in Congress. So I think today, I think this is unfortunate, and it's distracting, and it's off message, and it's not the agenda. It's not serving the American people.
And I think she pretty much nailed it with that take. What do you think?
I mean, I think she's spot on. I mean, the only thing I disagree with is just the entertaining aspect of it entirely. But I mean, exactly right. There's what I noticed when she's holding the baby, right? Advocating for a law that apparently, she doesn't want to do that, right? I know that somebody made the comment about, not want to bring the baby around germs, but I mean, the mother still made the choice to bring her there regardless, and ultimately as a tool, right? She's using the baby as a prop, as like, see what I have to do to you guys if I don't get remote viewing. I think it's just shitty overall. I mean, I think honestly, she's probably a terrible mother anyways too. And I also don't like the idea. I think it's Abigail had said this, that realistically the 19th Amendment will never be revoked. I mean, they said the same thing about black people would never be free, that women would never be able to vote in the first place too. It goes all these different ways, and to see something's impossible, it's just, that's not the way that God works. It's not the way the country works. And especially when you look at the way that things like that would get, ultimately would get handled. I mean, it would require a large amount of, obviously, amendment reworking, and in the vast majority you need there are 66%. But the Constitution's a living document. It's been changed time and time and time again. There's been supermajorities as well too. So especially if we stay on this course as well, and what we're seeing with young generations as well as Gen Z, we're going to continually vote for young men such as Dusty Devers, right, the Christian prince there in Oklahoma, who's not going to put up with this anymore. And everything they're doing in Oklahoma is extremely on the sentiment of Christian nationalism. They're not going to be voting for this kind of PC culture, men and women are equal about everything kind of stuff. And that's what you need. You need representatives to win. You don't have to have the whole 60% and such. But once you get guys in there like the Joel Webbins and the Stone Choirs and the very Christian-inspired men like Stephen Wolfs and the William Wolfs and the Andrew Iskers, who I may add, Andrew Isker was just with Tucker Carlson making waves. And then I would just add William Wolf was just in the White House. And these are all guys who are Christian nationalists who all advocate for things such as repealing the 19th Amendment. So the larger that movement grows, the more realistic that does become. Now, women might, obviously may fear that and the idea of like not being able to vote, but there's also a large portion of women who are also for that as well too. They see the downstream consequences of women being involved in politics, and what that's kind of wrought us. You can kind of identically map on a linear chart when women's rights came into place, and you can match it with the degeneracy skyrocketing, and shortly thereafter you have the sexual revolution. So all these things are tied hand in hand. And so I just disagree with the notion that it's, realistically it's impossible. I think especially with God, all things are possible. And I think if we were to do things that please God, we would move the country towards that position in the first place anyways.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy battle or a crazy thing to try to take away somebody's rights. I don't think, take away the 19th Amendment, which would be taking away the voters' rights for women, essentially. I don't know if that's ever happened in our country, but seems like we've been on this, human rights progressive movement for quite a while. And there's a lot of smart women who do deserve the right to vote. Like just, my wife is very educated. Not like, I'm not saying she's a doctor or anything like that. But I mean, she knows what's going on with the world, and she definitely is somebody that you'd want to vote. And when it comes to being head of household, we've had our moments where I'm the breadwinner or she's the breadwinner. It takes a team in today's society, so it would take a lot of adjustments to get things back to man being head of household, woman staying, being homemaker, and then not having the rights to vote or anything like that. But you are right though. It's one of those scenarios. But you're right about how a lot of things align with the sexual revolution, and just look at schools and look at education. I don't know the numbers, but I'd be willing to guess it's 10-to-1 women to men teachers.
Right.
Probably
something like that.
And that kind of goes along with child rearing, but not in this day and age. People that are interested in teaching nowadays seem to be more interested in their sexuality and cultural battles. We see the rainbow flags and the BLM flags and stuff going up in classrooms, and that stuff that generally you should leave for adults. But
yeah,
it's that kindness, loving kind of perspective that women have. That's like you think you're a cat, so maybe we can do something to put a cat box in the corner of the classroom so you can shit in it. You know what I mean? Rather than just being
right.
like, the fuck are you talking about? Go to the principal.
Yeah, right. Well, and that, and we see that, right? We see that with the way judges played out with like the Jeff Younger case, and you see that played out. I mean, the results of things like family court. There's like two different issues, right? The issue of the 19th Amendment is women being able to vote for things, and then you also have the secondary issue of women being in these positions of power. But and you go up to a popular idea, which is like, I think TNT said it, which is attach voting to the draft, right? The kind of the Starship Troopers model. But that again also it poses Christian identity, right? Christian values, right? We as Christians don't. If you have the ability as a man, you would not put a woman in the front lines of war. You would not even entertain the idea that a woman should be at war, right? You're the idea of, again, we go back to like the provider and the protector. Well, you would do things that would prevent women from being on the front lines. Like women should not be seeing combat. It's like the duty of the men of that country, the tribe, the nation, community, to ensure they go out and they protect the women from the outside threats. And then you kind of go to what I think is probably the better decision and the better way about it is only married couples can vote. Having stake like in what's going on, and it's one vote. Right. So one vote. So if your household's not in order and you guys can't agree on what to vote for, well, then you don't vote that year. And so these things that kind of like incentivize that the families are actually like in unison and they're voting for like things that actually matter. And I think and having like stake in the game. But the reality though is what happens with that.
You're a landowner,
too,
you're a business owner.
yes.
That type of scenario. And I like what Abigail Shepard says right here. I think voting should be attached to some type of citizen test. Women deserve to vote, but only if they're competent. Same for men. Some voting men are imbeciles, and that's true. I mean, Harry Styles, not Harry Styles, Harry Sisson.
Right.
Harry Sisson gets to vote. David Pac-Man gets to vote.
Right. I get
So,
that.
yeah,
And
you're
there's a
100%
couple of
right.
things. A couple of things really with that is the citizen test does make sense. But again, if you remove the ability to vote for a man because he's dumb, but now he also has to go serve in war because he's going to have to get drafted, like these things that like doesn't add up, right? Now it's like now you're and on the second aspect too, how are you going to tax people that you don't allow to vote? I mean, that's taxation without representation. That's how the country was even formed in the first place. So there can't be any kind of measure where because I mean, you have to offer up the idea that if these people can't vote, then they shouldn't be paying taxes. Because how are you going to tax a populace who's not allowed to have a say in what's going on? So that's why it can't be like on an individual level either. And that also attacks the marriage idea in a way where it disincentivizes it. Because if you can get told, well, you don't have to pay taxes as long as you can't vote, some people may also just choose not to get married because they can go their whole lives not having to pay taxes.
Right.
So there's a lot of different incentivization and disincentivization measures, which
Right,
is
and we
why
know
I
how-
go back to what I think is the tried and true, which is what do you want for the future? Like, what do you want when you look at what you want America to be in the future, what your future vision is? And my main thing with that has always been, I would like to return to that 50s golden idea of where one man can work a job in his local community and that can be enough to be able to have a home, a single income family where you can own a home, you can take care of children, and you can have that without having to take on 18 different jobs. And that's like the economic status there. And I think that would unify families too. But it's also a forward vision of what we want to do that actually honors Christianity as well. And again, I'm a bit more radical than what a lot of people in chat may be here. But for me, it's aligning American values and what they used to be back to closer to like the original prospect, which was very, very closely aligned. And we've only kind of went further and further away from Christianity as time has gone on. Well, the closer you have to come to that, the closer you're going to have to actually socially be aligned with those values too.
Right.
And so ultimately, if you have an ideal, right, which is exemplified in First Timothy, I believe it's chapter 12, which is, not even permitting that a woman have authority over a man, that's self-defeating if you have laws that legalize women having authority over men when it comes to they can vote men into wars that they won't have to serve, or they can hold positions of power like what we see here with Brittany Pettersen, where she's allowed to make decisions in all of Congress over every other man and woman child because she wants a way to set up proxy voting for her own personal decisions. So there's all these things to consider ultimately, but I think we can all kind of agree this current situation we have right now is not ideal. We're clearly not getting the results that we want. So how do you move forward with that in a form that honors Christianity and also doesn't open itself up to major kind of revolutionary ideals, which is large bodies of people being taxed with no representation, and then also making it functional if you do choose to be like, hey, we're not going to tax you if you can't vote. All these kinds of things that have to be made, I guess, make amends, or at least have the idea of what the consequences would be when you move towards one versus the other.
Right. Right. And then, you kind of mentioned something that people would, what was the comparison? You said people would not stay married to avoid not get married to avoid paying taxes. Is that what?
Right. Because if the idea is if like you do a citizens test and there's like maybe 40% of people don't pass it, well, now I think you're opening up a can of worms by first and second class citizens. But outside of that, it's how are you going to tax a huge portion of the population, but then deny them their ability to voice their and have representation?
Right.
So I think the easy answer there is where you would go, okay, well, we're not going to tax the people we decided can't vote, which I think then some people who are a lot more self-centered and the problems we face right now, which is declining birthing rates, they may choose and say, hey, I'm never getting married, man. If I don't have to pay taxes, like I would never get married. Why would I want to have to pay taxes? And then ultimately that means then the tax burden is going to be greater on the people who are married. And so it's like a double whammy there. So it's like, so a lot of those things to consider, because how could you say you're going to say, hey, we're going to tell you what to do and how to live, but you're not allowed to have any say in it. And also we need 10% of your money through the year. That's not going to work. I mean, people are going to like start losing their mind, and then they would have rights to say so. Same way the Revolutionary War was fought. Oh, you're doing all this, you're taxing us. We have no way to represent ourselves. That's how America was born. And so I think there's just a lot to consider there. But ultimately, I think most people can recognize when it comes to at least the position fulfillment of like leaders, right, for presidents and judges and so on and so forth, if we were to honor what it says verbatim via the Bible, we would find a way to excise these women out of positions of power and move to a situation where there are less women who have authority over men, specifically when it's in positions of all these men. Every man in this planet who is like of a certain age is eligible to go die in a war they would never have nothing to do with, right? Like if all of a sudden there's a draft because we go to war with Iran and some nuclear fallout happens, well, there are women who were involved in those choices that led to that. That's something that's like, ultimately self-defeating in terms of Christian values, because women shouldn't have the authority. And in Isaiah, it's actually a punishment given by God, right? God punishes nations by saying women and children will rule over you. And so there's a lot of these things that kind of like go left behind. People don't like to hear it. I understand that. But I just think we know it needs to change. And so it's like, how do we go about getting that change? And I think I side with a lot of people in the chat here, which is like, there's already a lot of women in the younger generations who are like, I would give up having to vote if it meant not having to deal with this, this, and this. And I've seen a lot of those videos. And I think Gen Z is way more radical than people are prepared for.
Yeah. And so I find that curious because, we see people in history across society, choose to stay single mothers because of their government status. You know what I mean?
Right.
We see people, when gay marriage became a thing, people getting married so that they could get insurance benefits, right? So that they could have power of attorney. And it's kind of a workaround, you know what I mean? Because like getting discounts on insurance for families was originally wrote for the reason of incentivizing having kids, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? We understand the burden on a family, but then when you get to like gay people having a family, they can't naturally have kids, biology, right? But yet they still get the same tax break. I've had face-to-face debates with folks that gay folks that were rooting for getting those rights, and I'm like, but why do you want that? Like, how does that correlate? You don't understand. I used to compare
benefits for things that you can never do, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know. It's just I use that as just kind of like an example of how people will manipulate the system due to the way the government allows it or lines it up. I mean, you might have people every 4 years get divorced so that both people could vote. There would have to be so many different things, and then get remarried again. if it was like 1 vote per household or 1 vote per family, which I actually love the idea, right?
Yeah.
1 vote per address, you know, and then
Right.
every address that has a home residence is represented and trackable much easier, you know what I mean, or whatever. And you know that I don't
Yeah.
know. There's
Well,
other aspects to it, even checks and balances that would need to be put in place. But
all these things are like tied together too, right? And so it's like, say we did move to a position where only married couples could vote. Well, then I would also argue then at the same time you also need to repeal no fault divorce,
Mhm.
because what kind of system would you need in place to keep track of all of the divorces and then remarries that happen and then have to reassign votes to people and re-put them in different kind of pairs, so you know the voting blocks are going to be coming from here? That's why it's like, go back to how it had to be, right? Where you had to kind of present a case in front of, I believe first it had to go through the church. And then once the church kind of signed off on the issues that were happening, they would escalate it to then the, le- the legal lever of it. I could be entirely wrong on that. But regardless, putting a lot more systems in place where it's like, okay, you got married and now you have the stake. It's like now you actually, like, instead of being luxury dating, how about it actually means something, which is like all these benefits the government works tirelessly to provide for you, these cuts that you get, the benefits and such, that you can't just, willy-nilly just say, oh, hey, like, I didn't like the way he didn't take the trash out yesterday, like, I'm going to divorce him. I mean, like, get rid of that kind of BS. Make it, you got to present a case and show, like, I mean, I think back then you had to be like, you had to show like he like was abusing you, right? Or vice versa. Or like she's like stealing money out of your
Or
wallet.
cheated or something like that.
Right. And it's like, it's got to be like a serious case. Otherwise, it's like, just get out here, dude. Like, solve your problems and stop being children. Get out of here. Like, you made that choice 2 years ago at the altar. I don't care about it. And no one else in this courtroom does either. Like, go figure it out.
Right.
But we kind of lost that because we did get to this effeminate nature of like, oh man, that's so bad. Yeah, you guys shouldn't be together. We don't have any kind of real tie to Christian values. Yeah, marriage means nothing in this country. You just do whatever you want. Get divorced. We'll have family court handle it out. And they know, and then family court's a whole other issue too, with child support and the state making money off the assignment of child support, judges making money off the assignment of child support. And all these things are anti-family at the end of the day. They work to facilitate people having, it's the lubricant that allows people to go from marriage to marriage to marriage, rather than be like the glue that's like, make it impossible for these people to be able to divorce, make it painful for them, right? You want
Or
to
make it last, make it last a year. You have to do a year of mediation before you can actually get divorced. You have to, you have to actually try to work it out.
Right. Make it like the BMV, dude. If you
Not
want to get
convenient.
divorced, you got to go to the BMV to do it.
Not
No one's
convenient.
gonna
You
wanna do
got to
that.
get a marriage license to get married. You should have to get a divorce license to get divorced, and
Right.
that should be a long, drawn out process. Maybe the
Right.
process of becoming married in the first place should be a longer, drawn out process. You'd have fewer divorces if some people just didn't get married in the first place. But Pablo Winskobar mentions it's really about perverting something holy, a complete inversion of nature. That is what the real motivation of gay marriage is, and that's why. I agree, and that's why they use the word marriage rather than just butt buddies or whatever. The South Park joke. But that's why they don't use just civil union could be represented legally as the word legally equally to the word marriage, but they wanted to use the actual term marriage, which is comes directly from the Bible. I mean, it's defined. It has a specific definition
Between one man and one woman. And he's right about that too. With that second comment he followed up there. Now I can't remember what advocate group that was in Obama's ear during that initial change of the guard and allowing it. But from what I can remember, and I can't remember, it might have been on a Tempo episode, but they're talking about how they didn't want the civil union because they had been proposed. Like, how about, okay, we'll give you the civil union that has all the same tax sheltering benefits, but we just aren't going to call it marriage. And they didn't want that. They wanted involved in marriage too, even though it means nothing to them, right? Like, they're not married in any kind of Christian sense. They're only married in like the legal sense. And Andrew Wilson's done work on that too. But one point I wanted to address, I think is funny, and I think it should be true, is House brings up there used to be a bachelor tax to encourage marriage and morality.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you want to be a sad incel? Yeah, you got to pay taxes for it. Right? Like, yeah, you want to be like this sad
mommy's
mom.
basement playing
Yeah.
video games, signing up to OnlyFans, which goes along with what Evil Elmo has to say here is that shame used to work also. Shame used to work also. It was shameful to cheat and you were ostracized. And same thing,
Right.
if you were like, a whore, it was shameful to be a whore, right? Or whatever. Not
Yep.
only if you cheated, but if you slept around,
Being the town bicycle.
society, your peers would shame you, and that shame, the fear of shame, would keep people in check on the front end. Nowadays, society says, "Oh, you want to be a whore? You want to go sleep with, what that one girl do? 100 men in the same day, or whatever it was, and
Like 1,000 now.
1,000. She wants to do 1,000 men in the same day. And the thing is, she's making more money than most, than the average American with her her OnlyFans or whatever. And it's just
Right.
like, yeah, it's the complete opposite. Like nobody's even ashamed of that shit anymore. They publicize it. They brag about it.
And here's an even better point to add more clarity to this is shame actually really never stopped working for men. It still works for men. It's that shame seemingly just is non-existent when it comes to women. Like for men, like men understand this in their own groups, right? Like if a man was like, hey man, like I just decided like I'm just not going to work for the next couple weeks, dude. Like I really don't care anymore. No guy's going to be like, oh yeah, brother, that's cool. Like they're going to be like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, what do you
Pussy.
mean? It's like, don't you have a child? Like, what? Like men are automatic with it. When you see men motivational videos, it's like I can't think of the guy's name, but it's you'll see people come up there and the video starts and it's like, wake up, bitch. It's like videos where it's like, are you being a weak vagina right now? And the videos are like, now get up. It's like, it's like it's right in your face. Women's motivation videos are, you are perfect as you are. It was always all their fault.
Your feelings matter.
Yeah, right. It's always about like you were actually never wrong. Don't ever be accountable. It's hilarious because it's that famous scene with I believe it's Jack Nicholson, where the lady's like, oh my god, like I love how you write women. Like how do you do it? How you write women so well? And he's like, oh, I'll tell you. He's like, I take a man, and then I remove reason and accountability, and I have the perfect woman. She's like in disbelief that he said that, but I mean that's the direction things are going, right? And to go back to the main point, I would never institute the bachelor tax today. I would actually encourage more men probably to like bide their time because of the female problem. You end up in a situation like Jeff Younger. Most men would probably unalive themselves until family court and the conservative movement decides that family court and these issues are going to be meaningful to them. It's ultimately like ushering men towards a death sentence. Now, I wouldn't say don't get married at all. I also disagree with that. It's way more complex than that. It's like you're going to have to do so much red flagging. You're going to have more often than not, you're going to have a burden of work. You're going to have to brittle away a good amount of feminism. And that's if you really want it to work. So it can't even be like, oh, she's attractive, I like her. It has to be like you love her with your dying breath and you're willing to do an utmost amount of work to make things work. Because that's really the situation we're dealing with. And so I kind of hate when you see a lot of conservatives just offer up, like, just get married. And it's like men offer back, like, to who? And then, you get this argument where conservative guys like Matt Walsh, a lot of times will say, you're just doing it wrong. Or like, you're an idiot. Or like, you're just like, you're probably an incel. And it's like, that doesn't help. Like men look at this issue. I think it was nailed, right? You see the way women behave, the way their friend groups operate. Just the overall nature of like being browbeaten by other men who are white knighting too. Like a girl says that you did this, she goes and runs to a crowd of people. All the guys are like, wow, like you didn't let her watch her show for the 18th day in a row for 4 straight hours, you asshole. And it's like, that's what you kind of get browbeaten into. So men see that situation and they're like, if I was forced to get married, I'd rather unalive myself than have to deal with that. And you see that kind of showcase with like a recent event with like Trent Horn and like his wife, like they make a video together and she's like joking about how she has a work husband and like he's this major cuck in it. And like people are like, that's such good content. And young men who are 21 years old see that and they're like, bro, I would never get married. That made me hate women 10 times more than I already did. And for some reason, there's a disconnect where people just can't see that. And it's like men don't want to be in a partnership where like the woman just goes, haha, like, okay, I'm off to go hang out with my work husband. And it's like and I don't know if you two might like this, but I'll say it as calm as possible. Most men hear that and they're just like I would, dude, I'm gonna put the wife beater on and give it its namesake. Like that's what they think when they hear that kind of stuff. But we kind of pretend it doesn't exist, and we tell men to go against their nature while exploiting women for theirs. It's just like, how do you get out of this mess without the conservative movement actually speaking towards it too, and not just kind of putting it in the closet for someone else to deal with?
Right, not joining with Democrats to vote for this nonsense that we've seen.
Right.
And to round this off, I wanted to play Chip Roy's comments. It's like, I had lag. Thought my computer was gonna freeze on me for a second, but yeah, we'll give
Don't
Chip
do it to
Roy's
me.
comments. Yeah, exactly.
We listen all day long about what we're hearing today regarding proxy voting. The American people that I know and represent and talk to expect us to show up. Right now, across this country, Americans are showing up to work. They're going in and they're doing their plumbing work. They're electricians showing up to work. They're builders. They're standing out in the sun. They're picking crops. They're working hard.
No, they're working out in the sun, carrying entire houses, carrying entire buildings, putting every single nail in, putting every single screw in, tearing out the rot, as Titan had to do the other day or today, grouted all day,
Right.
on his knees, hands and knees, dealing with buckets, which I despise. I hate buckets.
Yeah. Or you're at the soup kitchen because a Mexican took your job.
Yeah, exactly. Took your job. You decided he was gonna work. That he's gonna work for $10 less than you.
Right.
Than what you
Exactly.
need. But yeah, Tix Bomber. I guess no Donnie tonight. That's all right. Hopefully he's enjoying his time with his family. Yeah, Titan buckets suck. I have an affinity towards buckets. They're heavy when they're full, and they're awkward to carry. And when you combine it with grout, it means for a bad time. But yeah, to Chip Roy's point is, people got to show up to work. Wouldn't it be nice to not have to go out and work in the sun on a 100-degree day and get filthy doing some demo on a house because it's rotting apart and getting covered in nastiness and old bugs and dealing with wasp nests and getting sunburnt and everything else, the added cost of surviving out the day away from home, living off of gas station food and everything like that. If we could just stay home and mail that job in and the work just gets done. It's not obviously it's not realistic, it's not a reality, but yet these people who guarantee make I think their salary is like 175,000 or something like that, and then of course they make a lot more than that from whatever else, and they get to mail it in. These are the people that represent you. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm a fan of leaders who lead by example, and if we follow these leaders' lead, we don't show up to work. We mail in our work. We show up on a Zoom call and mail in our stuff, and only work. What'd you say? I think House AI mentioned earlier that it was like they work 173 or 150 some days a year. It's like,
Yeah. A third of it.
wouldn't it be nice, right? These people should have to live like the people that they're serving, so that they can have some type of understanding of what their people are going through. These
Right.
people are like, for even the lady with the baby, guys in the comments were saying that she looks so uncomfortable and she's not used to carrying the baby for more than 2 minutes because her nanny's the one that's raising it. So I mean, just mailing it in, living different from everybody else. It's messed up, but let's continue here. Pablo, they took her jobs.
They don't get to take a pass. They don't get to not show up. But we were elected to represent 750-odd thousand Americans each. We were elected under the Constitution of the United States, and we are supposed to show up in Congress. It's what it means. We're supposed to be here. It's why the institution exists. It's why this floor exists. And there have been countless reasons why there would be cause for us to want to allow members to have some sort of flexibility. People who are sick, our friend, Steve Scalise, who was shot. He was shot, and he didn't ask for some special dispensation. He fought cancer, is still fighting cancer, and as the majority leader is standing here on this floor every day doing the job. New dads. I'm a dad. My daughter, my son, they asked me to show up to things. I missed my son's 4-H presentation last week. I missed my daughter's 4-H this last week. I've missed countless family engagements. My wife carries the burden of making sure our family can function back home in Texas. But you know what? I signed up for the job. That's what I did. I signed up for the job. And when you let this happen, it will not just happen for mothers or fathers. It will be for everybody. And then we'll have proxy voting where you will have pressures brought to bear that will fundamentally change this institution. No, we should not allow this to occur. No, we shouldn't have discharge petition brought to the floor, which does violence to the Constitution, does violence to the body, and does it with no ability to amend it, because the way the rule was drafted, there would be no amendments, no ability to debate it. We should stand.
I yield the gentleman an additional 30 seconds.
I appreciate my friend from Virginia.
He's like, he's cooking. I'm going to give him my 30 seconds.
What we
He
are
said,
doing
let Chip cook.
for today is right and proper under our rules. It is to say that we should have a full-throated debate on something that would fundamentally change the people's house. Nothing more, nothing less. And we should do that. This is something that's been debatable. It was debated by the founders. It was debated by them and rejected. It was debated and rejected in the Articles of Confederation. It was debated and rejected in the Constitution. And now we are staring at the result of having set aside tradition and precedent by embracing proxy voting during COVID. Now it's being trying to be expanded beyond that. We should not do that. And with that, I will yield back.
Man, well said. I love the passion. And he makes a lot of excellent points. I mean, what can you add to that, really? Hey, what's up, Donnie? Appreciate you for showing up. Folks were just asking about you.
I think Chet just got a whole lot more racist.
Sorry I'm late. What do you guys even do without me? Must be so peaceful.
Right. Yeah, spot on. We were all getting along until Donnie showed up.
No, I said probably doing something fun with your family or whatever. So I'm sure I was right.
Yeah, I mean, and overwhelmingly, this kind of entire issue goes hand in hand with the secondary kind of viral moment from the last 24 hours, 48 hours, which was this insane marriage video that Matt Walsh ended up making a thread about, which I thought was good because I saw Jeff Younger had even gotten him kind of a bit of props, because Jeff Younger has been harping at these people for, I mean, the thing almost like 2 or 3 years now straight, to start talking more about the marriage issue and what's been going on with that. And so Matt Walsh ended up making a thread, and this video has millions of views. The original one was quoted by Candace Horbox, I believe is the right way you say her name. And so that one has 14.4. But I think if you click on that one, it's like it's even beyond that. From Candace Horbox, this has been quoted so many times.
86.
Yeah,
Holy
86.
smokes! You combine the two, that's 100 million views. Good Lord!
Right. And so it's from this video, because everything in this video does a lot of things, and it exhibits a lot of things and a lot of issues men have with women without a man at all needing to be present for the video. It's a lot of this kind of tactics of like public humiliation, the lack of understanding just like how men operate versus women, the lack of like seeing any kind of fault with what's going on with themselves, like all of these things combined. And so Matt Walsh put together a good thread through this, because it's insane, because you're seeing a lot of, like, I say conservative women, really they're covert feminists, but quoting this and saying like, wow, like this is a really, really good way to say things. And the same way that quotes there from Candace, a woman's love language is not having to ask, which in men's terms means literally reading your wife's mind at all times and being absolutely perfect, like being like, oh, I know she wanted this right when that happened. And it's like, what you really want is you want some kind of like psychologically attuned servant, like that ever knows every one of your little slight impulses and emotional kind of tendencies. And it's like what you're asking for is impossible, but this video showcases it pretty well, and so we can kind of go through it. But We'll just go ahead and abuse the crowd with this video. I wish I didn't have to do it to you, but it exhibits quite a bit, and it's kind of hand in hand with the proxy voting for women too.
Okay, so it's 5 minutes long. I'm just gonna let it rip. I haven't seen this yet, so we'll just go. And you let me know if you need to pause it anywhere.
Word.
I've been with my husband for almost 20 years, but about 3 years ago, I was strongly considering divorce, and I want to talk to you about why. So I'm going to tell you the story of the day where I thought to myself, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. My husband and I had 4 kids. We both worked full time. We had been together for 16 years at this point. We've been together since high school. And on paper, I have an amazing husband. He is incredibly supportive. He's kind. He's loyal. He's a great dad. He's very hands-on. He's an active participant. He's always present. Like on paper, what else could I ask for?
Why do I sense there's a but coming?
Well, and listen to this, right? She's basically saying, she starts off with, I almost divorced my husband, and then lists off all of the reasons why he's perfectly qualified as a man, as a husband, and is working and is present with his kid's life. So it's like, where's the issue? You're right. Like, where's the but? Like, where's the catch at? And it's wild. So yeah, it's insane. But this is the problem that a lot of men are facing, and why they choose not to participate in the first place.
TNT says, I'd love to see her medicine cabinet.
Yeah.
And that's why when you go use the restroom, you got to look in there and check, make sure.
Yeah, right. Where the SSRIs at, man.
Jerry Seinfeld did that in an old episode, and he found a fungus cream, and he's like, she has a fungus? What kind of fungus? And it like totally freaks him out. And then he finds out it was for a cat. He blurts out, oh, it's for your cat. And she's like, what the hell are you talking about?
That's funny.
But in reality, my experience is very similar to the experience of other women. I had this amazing husband who on paper was great, but I was incredibly frustrated and burnt out from our marriage and from motherhood. Because what happens to so many of us is that we marry these amazing men and we have amazing relationships, and then we have kids. And when we have kids, women tend to carry a disproportionate amount of the work in the home, the work of raising kids, and the mental load. And that is exactly what happened to us. About 3 months after my 4th baby was born, I remember looking at my husband and saying, I need more. I need you to do more. I am exhausted. I am in charge of everyone and everything in this house. Every night when we cook dinner, you ask me what to make. Every day when you drop off the kids at daycare, you ask me what they need in their backpacks. I am the project manager of this home, and I need you to do more. And he looked at me and he said, okay, just tell me what to do, right? Every woman has heard this. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I said, okay, something that would make my life easier is if in the mornings when I came downstairs with the 4 kids, because I do mornings by myself, the dishwasher was emptied, the dishes were put away, and the trash was taken out. That would make my life so much easier, because when I've got the 4 kids running around and the baby crying, I can't be looking for their favorite water bottle in the dishwasher. I just need to know it's clean.
Yeah, and I'd like a toilet made out of 24 karat gold, but that's just not in the cards, is it?
Like this is why I'm also excited.
They've worked all day, and I would like for the dishes to be cleaned whenever I get up. All right, sorry. I know just me wants me to play the video, but
right. Well, that's why I'm excited to go through everything that Matt Walsh said, because once you find out a bit more about what this woman also does for a job too, you're gonna be like, you're gonna be a little blown away. It's just insane. All
right. So we'll play. We'll just keep playing.
And he said, yeah, of course. What? Yeah, I'll do that. That's no problem. And so, of course, he does it. But then I have to remind him, and then he forgets, and then I have to remind him again. And there was this one morning where I woke up and I went to put something in the trash and it was overflowing. And I went to get my son's water bottle and it was in the dishwasher with all the other clean dishes. And I felt so disrespected and unseen and unvalued at that point in time. And I remember texting my husband being like, what happened? Like, why didn't you do this? And he said, sorry, I was running late for work. And I remember thinking, oh my God, he doesn't see me, because what he's done has now made me late for work. And he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the impact on me. And he doesn't see how every single thing in our home happens because I ask him to do it, or because I do it myself, or because I planned and organized it. The diaper bag is full because I filled it, right? I put the wipes in there. And I felt so frustrated. And I remember thinking, what's the point? What's the point of doing this with someone else? I might as well just do it alone.
So I think maybe we need to take your wife to work day. You know, take your daughter to work day. Maybe maybe it needs to be a national take your wife to work day, so she can understand what he's dealing with. I saw a funny I saw a funny Facebook video. I think I posted it in Discord the other day, which we got a Discord. If you guys would be interested in joining, that link's down in the description. And
Steve cracking me up. That's funny.
I didn't even see it. Make it stop. Everybody's saying, "Shut up, you whiner." Yeah, I bet he mows the lawn and does the yucky stuff. Yeah, that's for sure. He squashes all the bugs, opens all the jars. But that's my wife tried to open a jar the other day, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Let a real jar opener handle this.
Trying to replace me. Here we go.
And it's not because my husband didn't love me or he did anything to me. And it's not because I didn't love him, but because I felt so taken advantage of in our relationship. And this dynamic, it doesn't happen by accident, right? It's not like my husband did it to me, but we've been raised in this society that tells men and women who they should be in marriages and what it looks like to be a good mom versus a good dad. And we know the bar for moms is way up here and the bar for dads is way down here. And we fell into these norms. We fell into these roles in our family, despite the fact that we never wanted to. And I'm lucky. And I say lucky because I have a partner who I know loves me and wants me to be happy and was willing and able to change. And so we did the work to figure out what equity looked like in our relationship. And I can tell you now, 3 years later, that we are happier than ever. Our kids are thriving. Our home runs like a well-oiled machine. And that took a lot of work. I want to say it took like 18 months to get there. And it was well worth it. But it is not uncommon. And so if your wife is coming to you and she's saying, "I'm burnt out by the mental load and I need you to do more," she's not just saying that because she wants you to do more chores. She's saying that because truly it can hurt your relationship. It can ruin your marriage if you do not participate in an equitable way in your home. And so what does that look like? What does it look like to change these dynamics? Well, we need to really assess in our homes what the work looks like. Because in most homes, the data supports this, women do a disproportionate amount of the work. They just do. They do more of the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and the childcare while also working full time. And men have more time for things like their hobbies, like golf, for example, or just working out, running a marathon, right? And so we need to have hard conversations about what our time looks like, what our labor in the home looks like, what is invisible labor. We have to talk about these things. And when we don't, the alternative is that you no longer have a marriage, or you don't have a happy one at least. And so I share this story because I don't think I'm alone in this experience. And I want people to know that there's hope and that if you have a willing and able partner, you can change this. You can absolutely change this dynamic.
Yeah, that right, dude. Even you're nailing it, dude. I think there's no better way to describe that. And I think the first takeaway from watching that is, oh my gosh, like I actually this is the second coming of Jesus Christ. She's absolutely perfect. She's literally never done her husband wrong. She does nothing that she needs to actually do equitably for her husband in this relationship. I mean, talk about how you can talk 5 minutes about your marriage struggling, but not mention one time that you may have had something to do with it is a little telling in and of itself. But Matt Walsh nails a bunch of these things out too. Yeah, give the guys a peace prize for being with that for 17 years.
The chat is glorious right now. You guys are cracking me up. I could hardly pay attention to her because you guys were entertaining me more than she was. That's for sure.
Right. But yeah, just nailing out the thread here.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna mute her because of autoplay.
Yeah. But you see that, right? The red flag, the first one, that she's openly, again, and this is something that a lot of women just seemingly don't understand for whatever reason. And I think it's not a hard one to get, but she's openly criticizing and complaining about her husband to the entire world. He says, "I guarantee if her husband ever did this to her, she'd lose her mind." Can you imagine a 5-minute video from a husband? He just sets it in the garage and he's like, "All right," he's like, "I just got to open up to everybody. My wife's being a real bitch lately." So let me explain why I almost divorced her because of these reasons, right? And it's you never see that at all. I mean, not to say it doesn't happen, but you clearly get more of one than the other. But it's that idea of openly disrespecting your husband as if that's going to improve things. And it's not even just in the form of taking a video of it. you might see this like out at church or like at restaurants or like in public gatherings. Like say you and your group went to go watch a movie with the other family, and the wife's like, oh my gosh, like there's my husband again. Like he can just never be on time. Do you know how awful my husband is at time? My gosh, my husband is awful at time. And so these kinds of things where it's just out in the open, like just publicly disrespecting your partner to whoever can hear you. And obviously men don't respond to that very well. They're not going to take it as like, man, I better be closer on time to like get in line with my wife. He thinks he's like, dude, this miserable woman out here talking shit every second we go outside. This is why I don't take her out anywhere. It has the opposite effect.
He shows the dirt under his fingernails, and the dirt that comes off of him, like in the shower, he like films the dirty water coming off, like going down the drain, and he's like, she wants these dirty hands taking the clean dishes out of the dishwasher and putting them away. It's like, you know how much effort I have to put into just getting the dirt out from underneath my fingernails because I work all day with my hands and back. It's like,
right.
It's so funny.
Right.
I hope I posted that in the Discord. It was a Facebook link the other day. I hope the one that I posted was the right one, because it was the one I'm thinking of. Because I just keep going back to that guy. He goes, I got to tell you about it a little bit. He goes home, and he's like getting grief from somebody at his house, right? And he's like, you see that? He points, and they're on the balcony. He points. He's like, see that skyscraper over there? I just lugged 36,000 pieces of rebar from the bottom of that floor, from the ground all the way to the top today. I smoked 15,000 cigarettes. I drank 92 black coffees. He starts hunching over, and they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, about an hour after work every day, my back just locks up like this." He's like, "But I'm working a night shift." It's just so funny. The dude just goes on and on and on. It was really, oh man, I hope that's the one I posted. I know I posted one of two.
What also makes me think of that viral one where that guy was sitting down with like that spool of wire, and he's like having a moment, and like he doesn't want to share it first. He's like, he doesn't, like halfway, his wife's recording him, and then eventually he's like, okay, let me tell you why I'm breaking down. And he's like, I've had this spool of wire since my dad gave it to me when I first started doing work at home. And he's like, no, I just realized like this is I'm out of it. I've had it for like 24 years. And he was like, that's been that long. And she starts laughing at him. She's like, honey, you're so effing stupid. Ha ha ha. And he's like, I should have never said anything in the first place.
Right.
And it's like everyone, like all guys, when they see that, were like, oh,
well, she would have divorced him if he would have made that video, by the way.
Yeah, right. The other way around, it would have been, yeah. This is exhibit B in the court proceedings in our divorce hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's like this major disconnect with like not understanding like what men respond for, like what they value, don't value, like what they find attractive, not attractive. It's like this major disconnect, and it's like men are simple as is. I think of all those memes you see where it's like women hate that men need very little to be happy, and it's like the image of like the dorm room where it's like just a bed, a TV on the floor, and like a lamp. And it's like that's the whole point, right? It's like the guys like they don't care about that stuff, like they don't need that stuff. It's the same way with the home, right? It's like if I want something in the home, right? Like if I want my desk to be over there and I want like that to look like something, like I'm going to be the one doing it, right? That's because like I want to change that about the home, so I'll be the one to do it. Where women think like because they want the home to be a specific way, like this cleaned at this time and this, it's like, well, you're the one wanting it, but you're wanting your husband to do the work for you for the thing that you want. It's like this weird like dynamic. It's like the guy could have like cared less about the trash being taken out that morning, and what to stop him from doing it at night so no one's late for work. All of those kinds of things that like on a logistic scale make literally zero sense to a guy, so they're never going to be privy to it, because it's like the guy doesn't wake up and worry about, oh my god, did the trash get taken out? Like the guy wakes up and he was like, damn it, I have 8 minutes to take a shower, I need to hurry. Right? It's like that's not in their thought process, so it just doesn't happen like that.
That's crazy. So where do we leave off on the red flags from Matt Walsh?
2.
Did I cut you off? Because I cut you off, I think.
No, you're fine. You're totally fine. We're on number 2.
Number 2. Okay, so go ahead. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so red flag number 2. She admits that she considered divorcing a good, loyal man and great father and husband simply because he didn't follow her instructions closely enough.
He forgot one day because he was late.
Yeah, right. She listed off all those qualities. He's an active father. They both work. They've been doing this for about 17 years, and that's all it took was being late to work one time and not taking the trash out. And what was it, like, empty the dishwasher? That she
Yeah.
was like, he literally, like, she literally did the woman thing where she was like, she saw that and she was like, he effing hates me and is cheating on me, isn't he?
hmm
It's like, how are you taking that
That
from the
laying in
trash
the
thing?
that laying in the bed meme where she's sitting there going, "I bet he's thinking about."
Yeah,
And it's like he's thinking
other
about
girls.
fishing or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's him thinking about, like, he's like, how it's like the movie of Inception, and he was like, how who thought to make the chairs fall over, right? It's like some kind of, like,
Right? Just
way
something
out there,
random.
like, thought.
Something
Yeah.
random. Yeah, exactly. uh, how did uh, how did jet fuel melt steel beams?
Yeah, I've seen that one too. Yeah.
This is
There's
a
a
good
lot of
one.
good ones, but they just, for whatever reason, there's like a disconnect. They don't understand it. And but that's part of it. We're two entirely wired different beings, right? That's why it's why it goes to the in hand argument with the voting by proxy, which is like men and women, like, aren't interchangeable. Like,
Mhm.
we were created by God as two different entities with two different receptive sensors built in the same kind of body that houses the soul.
Right.
What we respond to, our emotions, our emotionality, our assertiveness, the capacity for our emotions, the way the brain is wired, all of things they're entirely different. So to act as if any kind of position can just be easily, as entertained and done by either version, vice versa, is not true. But
Right.
like, the same thing holds true for, like, the kitchen stuff, right? With, like, the child rearing and, like, the raising of children and the nurturing aspect. Is like, women do that better. No man can no man can replace what a woman can do for being a mother of their child. But, like, that, we don't have those arguments because it's not like there's a we're having a world epidemic of men who are racing to, like, take women's positions. It's the other way around. So that's why the
Mhm.
conversation happens in that form.
Yeah, very much so. And then red flag number 3. You want to go ahead and read that one too?
Yeah, number 3, in this whole 5-minute diatribe about her marital difficulties, she never once mentioned anything that she might need to work on or improve. In her mind, she is perfect and does everything right. Her husband is to blame for everything. And then he concludes saying, very concerning that so many women are applauding this monstrously selfish nag who tears her husband down in public.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this dude's just gonna be thick-skinned like most men and not do anything, and he shouldn't divorce her over this. I mean, they got 4 kids and they've been together for a long time or whatever, but man, how horrible. And when it comes to taking out the trash, um the oldest kid's got to at least be 5 or 6 years old. Get that kid taking the trash out. You know what I mean?
Right. What's crazy, because he goes on a thread too. Like, if you scroll down, he just keeps going.
Oh, okay. So
Like,
yeah,
the
here.
dude just keeps going. It pissed him off.
So I'll continue from here. He says, and yes, women are inevitably going to end up taking on a disproportionate amount of domestic responsibilities. That's not oppression. That's millennia of biological hardwiring. A woman's mind tends to be more focused on needs inside the home. A man's mind is more focused on what needs to be accomplished outside the home for the sake of his family. Neither the family nor the wife are wrong in their focus. They are different. Women like this are forever frustrated and doomed to misery because they just cannot accept that their husband is different. They cannot accept that they're married, that they married a man, not a woman. And, to that point, and the point you made earlier that, we're made differently, don't need to list all the differences, but when you put a man and a woman together, they make an ideal team. They make a
Right.
better entity, a better unit, right? You can get more done. You can actually have a family. This, it's um, the yin yang thing, whatever. It goes
Right.
together.
Right.
But he
Where they're
can,
meant to be, like, coupled as, like, a unit, right? Strengths
right?
versus weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a saying that behind every good man is a strong woman, or a strong man is a good woman, or whatever. And that's to that point right there.
Yeah,
Like Chip Roy mentioned with his wife, she does a lot taking care of the kids back in Texas while he's going back and forth from DC to Texas and all that type of stuff. My congressman that I met in DC, I actually met his wife first. She was very not like take charge, but she was assertive. She was sure in herself, but she was, helping her husband. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
she wasn't trying to supplant him or anything like that. She was very kind and gracious. We showed up to get our tickets. We still wanted the tickets to the inauguration, even though they didn't do anything. We just wanted them as a keepsake or a souvenir. And she gave them to us, and then she's like, "Here, let me take you down out this way," because it was right when they were closing this particular building. So she's like, "If you come with me, then you can go the different way out." Blah blah blah. We ended up meeting up with her husband while he was doing a tour with the rest of the group. We joined the group, and it takes a unit for the men, that are elected, like in this particular situation, to even do what they do.
Right.
And just the way that we're made, it's he wouldn't be as good at what he does if he didn't have her backing him in the way that she does, and I think that goes for a lot of married people, married couples in
Right.
history, throughout history. But Matt Walsh continued and said, apparently her husband is a utility lineman, which is one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet. The guy has to worry about not dying on the job, but all she can think about is the fact that he didn't load the dishwasher. Unload the dishwasher is what it was. She wanted it to be empty. Get it right, Matt. Gosh. No, but that's crazy. Being a lineman is insane. I know a dude that he got electrocuted, and it messed him up. He should have died from, it would have killed a lot of people or whatever. So it's as careful as you can be, it still happens.
Well, just think of I think in the 1800s, without all of this technology and stuff, what did women do? Did women ever sleep? Or did they sit outside their front door that, was cockeyed and 2.5 inches above the dirt floor? Did she stomp every bug that walked through the bottom door that they didn't have proper insulation from? No. So there's this weird kind of OCD component that's, I think, attached to all of this as well, which is the woman wanting complete control of how the house looks every morning, right? And I kind of think is this tied to the SSRI epidemic? Has this kind of attached itself to women who are on these forms of birth control and prune all their emotions, their raw emotions, and become these kind of nebulous wired beings? Is it do they feel some kind of such lack of power or ability to influence that they become obsessed with these minor things, and then they view anything that happens with these minor things as an actual attack on their personal character, like what she said, right? Because he didn't take the trash out. All of this other sacrifices, everything else that her husband does, is entirely meaningless. It's just by the proxy of not taking the trash out that must have been an attack on her, right? That was she personally was disrespected.
Yeah, she takes it personally.
Trash out, right? And it's where's that connection then? How do women for all of human history live? And I kind of think there's an SSRI component here, where women are kind of deeply damaged by chemicals that they consume, probably from their $18 Stanley cups. So they drink Starbucks and get wired up on other junk like that. Because I can't for the life of me understand how your husband does all of that, and you can lose sight of that when you look at an overflowing trash bag.
Right.
That's what I think is a bit neurotic. Now you're just wanting your husband to do literally every single thing that you ask him of perfectly in the exact manner that you asked him to do it.
Right. You look in the dishwasher and you see the dishes are still in there. They're clean and they're not put away. I mean, you can still use them out of the dishwasher if they're clean. You just grab them out of there instead of grabbing them out of the cabinet. It's not that hard. It's not, you shouldn't be taking it as a personal attack that my husband doesn't love me because he did unload the dishwasher. That's just such a hilarious way to think.
and then you pretext it by saying he was so willing, right? He was yeah, honey, just tell me what you want me to do.
Right.
There's no no barrier there of getting him to do something. He was willing, right? It was just yeah, I'll take one more. What do you need me to do? And then he just forgot something that was brand new to him, that right? He forgot.
Or he was busy. He was running late that day, I think is what it was, right?
Yeah,
it's well, then have a little grace on your husband. He was running late, but it made me late. It's Okay.
You're both late, dude. It's yeah.
It's crazy. And then Matt finishes off and says, "We hear a lot about the manosphere. I think it's time we start talking about the woman sphere and the corrosive effect that these real toxic feminist influencers are having on the minds of young women and their marriages." And it's funny because I just brought that up last show that it seems like the younger men are coming more towards masculinity and Christianity, but the women are just a hot mess. The young women are just they're and it's crazy because it's led on by dating apps and stuff like that, but they don't want to date people their age. The guys their age don't have anything to offer them. Everything that we've talked about. And for some reason, these women are women like what this lady is. They they just can't. There's no pleasing. They can't be happy with it, and with just a nice, normal, monogamous relationship.
Right. Which is why I think you hear the
they're-
term like neurotic being thrown around quite a bit. And it's just like this what's the right way to say this? So for those who aren't familiar, right? Like neuroticism is just basically like you are more prone to negative emotions, right? Like you are neurotic. It's like your proneness to feeling negative emotions, whether it's anxiety or fear or anger or all those things, I think is a lot more present. It's like kind of like the opposite or a form of opposition to stoicism, where men just kind of keep it all in, right? Like if they comment on something, it's generally because it was funny. That's kind of like the only emotion you'll see men maybe comment on something for, because it made them laugh or it made them pissed off. It's kind of like one or the other. But that's what I see here exhibited here, and I think in a lot of modern women it's like it's so easy, right? That's why I think the ick is a very common thing now too, because all it takes for a woman to entirely write off a guy is one thing that gave her the ick. And in this case, with this long-term marriage, she's like losing sight of their marriage as a whole and like their commitments to each other and convictions and all of that for a short-term thing about the trash that caused her to experience such great negative emotion. It's like, and again, we're here trying to put on a mission for, yeah, don't play that audio again.
Sorry.
We're trying to put on a mission for young men. And how do you, I mean, again, it's like you come back to this, like, how am I supposed to convince a young man to get married when all of the influences and the woman in his dating market are for women who see this and they're like, oh my God, sister, you nailed it. Right? Like,
you cut out. You cut out for a second there. You said if they you're back now, but you cut out.
Okay.
You said what if the men and then you cut out.
Well, yeah, with young men, right? Like we're here with the jar openers. We're like, here's, we try to be a voice to younger men, right? Orchestrate yourselves in this way. This is how we feel as men who are a bit older. I mean, you're a boomer, but I'm just messing.
No, you're good.
But in turn, like being like, now go get married, guys, because that's something we promote, right? As Christian men, like what men should be married and building families. But at the same time, if this is what the women's sphere is putting out, a young guy who's 22 years old, and I say, yeah, just get married, man, just figure it out. He sees that and he's like, come on, dude, like I'm not gonna get married. Have you seen how women are behaving? And we have to solve this disconnect in some form, like some way, because the answer has to be two-sided. And also we kind of reach these positions where you get about the what about men though argument that a woman will come back with, which is like, well, men also do this, men also do this. You have to understand that there could be a objective reality in which something is not 50-50. Like when people bring up the issue of like pornography or something else that plagues the genders, we get into these positions of, well, on both sides, right? There's issues on both sides, which is true. But there's also a reality in which I believe as well too, that there's also a reality where maybe it's 60-40, or maybe it's 70-30, maybe it's 80-20, maybe it's 90% of all of the relationship issues lie on one side of the gender versus the other. This idea that it's perfectly split down the middle, 50-50, both men and women have an equal amount of problems, like that's just retarded. It's like statistically, it's just like impossible to even achieve something like that. And I think the reality of the situation here is that because of the agreeable nature of women, they have been continually exploited through a multitude of means, and we are in a position where it's probably getting to the 60, maybe the 70 range, where a lot of these problems are like women developed, like women built, invented, developed, innovated, and put on the market. And that's what I think is the hard part, because when you try to talk about this stuff with like a lot of the female conservative influencers, they go, yeah, that woman is really bad. But what about the men though? And it's like, but what if the problem is that these issues are 70% women derived and 30% men? It's like, then wouldn't it be
Right.
the logical solution would be, then shouldn't the more burden of work be on fixing the women problems first and then getting that closer to 50-50? But some people can't even go that far. They're like, no, men and women both equally do all these things. It's like, it's impossible.
Right.
Like, there's no 50-50 like ever. If I flip a quarter 10 times, it's supposed to be 50-50, but I'm not going to get 50-50. It's just like a probability versus an actuality is like in two entirely different things. And so we have to kind of get our mindsets out that it's possible that, like with races, it's possible that one race is more capable of doing one thing that's negative than all the other races. It's also possible that one gender is also capable of doing all of these negative things over the other gender, and that it's actually happening in this point in time too. Not to say that that wasn't present years ago, but in the present situation right now, I would wager the majority of women are causing more of the relationship problems than the men are. Now, what specific number, I couldn't tell you. I don't have data in front of me, but that would be my argument, and at least from my perspective, what I would see. And I'm obviously biased because I am a man, but that's at least what I see.
Right. And then Steve mentioned here that 90% of women will yes queen this woman. I can't believe I even did it that much, but I know what you're saying.
I wasn't shocked at all.
Men have no problem holding men accountable. Women reject accountability all the time. And then to that point a little bit, with the Yas Queen part, Pablo mentioned a little bit ago that he wonders if this is just a rage bait, type of thing. It probably really isn't the case, but she knew it will drive clicks. Hopefully for her husband's sake that that's the case and he was understanding of it before she posted this, but I don't know if that really is the case. Although it worked. We've spent, good 30, 45 minutes talking about it, and that video has over 100 million views. So,
yeah, in like 24 hours.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that's a payday on YouTube, for sure.
Right. Yeah, you're making good money if that was on YouTube.
I mean, what 100 times $400,000? Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Right.
Let's see here. Let's see here. Well, but to end it on a good note, see what we're at 9 o'clock. I want to end it with a good note here. In light of all the biological men, I'm tired of saying biological, of all the men and boys being in
Where
women,
are all the men?
Men and boys being in women's sports, in girls' sports. The women involved in these sports need to take the lead, and this is one of those cases right here. This is cool. A female fencer takes a knee instead of competing against a biological male. Like I said, I'm just going to call them, boys. They're all boys. None of them are men. USA Fencing disqualifies and expels her from the college tournament, even though her male opponent played for the men's team last year before switching to women's. And then DC Drano asked, how is this legal? I mean, woke colleges, woke universities, we know the answer to that.
Right.
But here we'll check out this video because this is cool. This is the inspiration that we need to see going out to women, not what we just watched with that other lady. And this nerdy guy looking like young Drew Carey. I'm gonna mute it. it just because there's no other audio than Jim's sound. But then here comes boy. But I identify. I don't know what he's saying, but obviously, I'm sure there's some
Asking how
attempt
transphobic she is.
at justifying, like, no, but I am a girl. But I am a girl. I am. She should have kicked him in the nuts right then and tested. Right?
She's
like, oh, really?
No, he's like, I trained the last 2 weeks. Let me beat the living shit out of you.
Right. Please. I just want to stab you with my fencing thing, with my fencing sword.
Yeah. And it's kind of wild. Like, even just like, even if I didn't have like the description.
Oh, I see. I see. Oh. Sorry. I'm still
right. No, you're
narrating.
good. I think that you would still be able to tell like something like off with that person.
Right.
Right. Even just with them like kind of side by side, you're like, wait a minute. Something's a little off there. But this is like the flack that Bradley Gaines even got initially by like other conservatives. Where she didn't say a word until after she had placed 5th in that race against Leah Thomas, whatever he decided his gay name would be.
Yeah, Leah Thomas.
And it's true. It was like women should have been doing this well before it was like, personally affecting them. They should have been speaking out well before then. And we saw a lot of similar stuff where it was like that one girl said something because they only take like the 8 spots to like the next round, and she placed 9th because like a trans man was in front of her, and she was like, he took my position. And it was like, you went all the way through the competition and then didn't say anything until after you had lost. It was like, you should have been saying something before you even competed, like, hey, who's this big Ronald McDonald looking MFer over here, man? Like, what is this? So it's just like, okay,
right. Steve makes a good point. He said, I'm actually glad they're getting into women's sports. This is what women voted for. And now they can vote for this by mail, by email, by Zoom. They don't even have to show up to do it. But then he adds, until our society addresses the real problem, which is women voting, this is what we deserve. And, like I said, too, that, to add to what I said, I guess, and to add what you said, or combine the two is how I'm really trying to word that.
Right.
Women voted to get themselves into this, and it's going to take the women involved in these sports to get themselves out of this mess, because ultimately I can't fight. No man can go out there and fight this battle for them. And I'm willing to bet that the push for allowing these boys to participate in these sports is probably headed up by some women of sort. I hesitate to call them feminists, but the feminists won't stand out against this. You would think that the loudest voice against boys being in women's sports would be the biggest feminists, but you don't hear a peep. And that's just because they're afraid of getting kicked out of their cult, and they don't have any true principles other than, stay in my safe space.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to add too, I think, in the reality is in the practical sense, as it sits right now, I mean, the fact that there's a major kind of duty and responsibility assigned to men for their ability to vote, which is the draft, and that not existing for women. You could also come into an easy decision where you allow women to vote, but we institute the 3/5 rule again, where it's like you don't contribute and don't have the same responsibilities or level of responsibilities, so your vote just simply counts for less. And then you get a compromise on that regard. It's like you can still vote and voice your opinion, but it's going to take more of you to contribute versus the ones that do have to have like the weight of the burden of Secret Service hanging over their heads and such. But I guess we'll see what the GOP does. Like I said earlier, Gen C is so radical, I don't think people are ready for it. And so when you start getting a lot more people like Dusty Deavers in office who come out swinging and they go full abortion ban across the board, no ifs, ands, or buts. If that happens to you, we're going to prosecute you. You try to go to another state, we'll prosecute you. Guys like that, when they start going after the 19th Amendment, and you're seeing the massive crowds of Andrew Tate fans they do exist, are going to be coming out and saying, like, I didn't vote at all my entire life, but I will vote if that's on the table. And we're going to see some kind of major swings like that. So who knows what's in store for the future.
Yeah. Looking forward to those days. Looking forward to these dinosaurs getting out of Congress and the younger age groups taking over. Donnie says, also, have you seen an athletic leftist or feminist? No. And that's why these people advocate for participation trophies, because they can't win one unless it's for just simply participating, right? They can't actually win a tournament. They can't win, any type of series. It's just got to feel good. Worry about your feelings, and that's all that matters, right? But with that, I think we'll go ahead and just wrap up there. Unless you had any final thoughts, let us know.
No, there was all. Christ is king. Deport Cash Patel. Pam Bondi needs to go to the kitchen. I think I'm forgetting something there. Oh, ban woman. Obviously, ban woman. And America first, America only.
That's right. I agree. Christ is king. We'll see you guys on Saturday. Appreciate everybody. Love you guys. The greatest chat on YouTube for sure. You guys had me laughing again. And one of these days, I will provide proof of wife. Just watch.
Have a good night everybody.
With war rolling and with thug, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we won't be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas thug, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Draw open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas thug, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas thug, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.